And on today's podcast, we're going to talk about everyone's favorite YouTuber, social media person, where everyone is an expert in credit repair. And everyone tells you things that when you come to us may not be accurate. So we have to let you know what is true to what you're trying to accomplish. So yeah, GizzyCredit podcast right now. Let's go.
GizzyCredit. GizzyCredit. Anything you want, then you can get it. Don't get scammed, cause then you'll regret it. Hollywood legend. No longer gotta look pathetic. GizzyCredit. Anything you want, then you can get it. Don't get scammed, cause then you'll regret it. You no longer gotta look pathetic. GizzyCredit. Anything you want, then you can get it. Don't get scammed, cause then you'll regret it. You no longer gotta look pathetic.
Hey, you no longer gotta look pathetic. What's good with y'all? Waiting on more of you guys to log on, to call John. What's good with all of you? Hope all is well. Let me know below where you from, where you calling from, the regulars that come on. Shout out to you. This podcast is really a podcast where it's like you get mad because you be like, yo, this is a upward battle that we're fighting where it's a whole bunch of miscommunication out there, and you guys need to know what is real and what is not real, and what is bogus and what is BS. Okay, mi gente? So hope all is well. See a lot of you logging on. Hopefully y'all can see me on Facebook as well. Last time I wasn't able to be seen on Facebook. So let's see if we see each other on Facebook. Let's go right here. Okay, I got some video. Aníbal, oh, what's good? Resolviendo, Aníbal. Trabajando, ya tú sabes. By the way, your brother-in-law or your brother started credit? He sounds just like you, so I'm thinking he's your brother. Anyways, I spoke to him today. Shout out to him too. Let's see. Oh yeah, I am live. Oh no, I'm not live. Something's wrong with the restream. That's why I'm not live on Facebook. And it's very frustrating that I'm not on Facebook. Let's go right here and check. And it says it should be good. Let's see. Social dashboard. Yes, offline. Why am I offline sending data? This is the worst. This is the worst why I can't be seen on YouTube, which is very, very, very annoying. And because I still have some people on Facebook that log on, and in order for me to do this again, you see it says, please restart your broadcast, apply the changes. All right, I'm gonna have to restart the podcast. Let me see if it works. Bendiciones to all. Sorry for the miscommunication, and let me restart it. All righty. Sorry for the miscommunication. This actually sucks. Anyways, I gotta fix it. I won't be able to log on to Facebook because I'm using Restream. So I don't understand why I can't go into my Facebook, but I will get that fixed. Sorry for the people on Facebook. You can come over here to YouTube. Anyways, let's call up John. Do this real quick. Let me know if you guys hear me. What's going on, John? Had a couple of technical difficulties just now. That's why I'm logging off after a little bit of 6. Got some people who logged on though. People will not be able to see us on Facebook though, because the restream is not going into Facebook. But it's all good. I gave the link on my bio for restream and YouTube, so people will see us on YouTube no matter what. So, anyways, John, how's everything?
Good. Same old, just working through kids are back at school, so working through that whole Corona adjustment scenario and work as usual.
How is the financial markets right now? Any news that we'll be able to get into today?
I mean, there's always news, but I mean, we talked about last week about, or last time we spoke, which was 2 weeks ago, and at that time I'd said the possibility of them approving this new unemployment, the additional unemployment, which obviously will provide liquidity to the broader market, right, for
Yes.
everything, because that helped a lot. But the possibility of that happening before the election was very, very small, and now you're starting to hear just the fact that it's not going to happen. So, and subsequently, obviously, you're starting to see people start to make adjustments accordingly, right? I mean, the idea that everybody was under was just for a long time was that it was just going to keep the faucet was just going to keep kind of running in an effort to kind of keep things propped up. But the Democrats, from a political perspective, think as though they feel as though if they do that, it's going to look like the money's coming from Trump, which is going to give them a political advantage going into the election. And even with such a highly contested election that we're
Well, it hasn't passed yet, right?
Say that again.
It hasn't passed yet.
No, it's not going to pass.
Ooh.
It hasn't passed, and it's not before the election. And honestly, if I'm not sure after the election if that's even going to be something that is going to be on the table. If they were going to do it, they would have done it. I mean, I think that you're starting to see areas that are difficult in our broader economy, like restaurants and airlines and stuff, things that just can't recover right now. I mean, I think if there is a skinny package, which is what they're calling it, I think that's going to address them immediately, and then I'm not sure how much is going to be left for the individual consumer. I had a meeting today, and we were going over just the extent of the amount of liquidity that got pumped into this market over the last 6 or 7 months between the EIDLs and the extra unemployment and the PPP and the random checks that you just got. Did you
have to take out something for your business, for your real estate business?
No.
Okay. Because I see some people who are in management that I believe they took out. Or you only take out if you needed it.
That's the way I look at it. I thought that's the right thing to do, right? Like you take it out if you need it. But I've come to realize over the course of time that people just took it out to take it out. The problem with that is, and again, this is part of the conversation I had today, is that some of these people love the idea of having the liquidity, right? And taking on the liquidity. The problem is that those EIDL loans, they're 30-year loans. So you borrow $150,000 on an EIDL from them, you're paying that back in 30 years. Now, granted, you could always pay that back earlier, but people aren't going to do that $700 a month. How long do you think? Because that's what it is, right? Let's just take, for argument's sake, they borrowed $150,000 from the EIDL. It's a 30-year payback. You don't make any payments the first year, and then it's like $700 and change for 30 years, right? Normally when people take on a 30-year amortization, it's a mortgage, right? So you're building equity. How long do you think these people, certain people, right, are going to be making that payment? I mean, I know I told a story last week about clients, like a lot of people, and I'm not judging them, but have already exhausted their EIDL money, right? Like it's been exhausted already, either because they needed to or because they tried to get into alternative investments that didn't necessarily pan out, i.e. the stock market. Yes. And as a result of that, now they're sitting here with a payment, and the payment's sustainable. But how long do you think they're going to pay that? But honestly, you're going to pay 30 years? People pay mortgages 30 years because they're building equity in their property. And most people don't even stay in a house for 30 years, right? I think the average turnaround time for people living in houses is like 6 years, something like that. Or keeping the same mortgage. So
and imagine a business.
What's that?
Imagine a business.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, where's the motivation? Right now, it's great because they're being held over. Same idea with school loans. Think about this for a second. People took school loans out to get them from A to B, to get them through college, to get them through all that stuff, right? I mean, that's what they did in those instances. And now 5 years later, they're stuck with $150,000 and they're complaining every day. They're not paying it. This is going to be no different. It's going to be a couple years into this. They're going to move on. They're going to look back at that money. They're going to resent it. It's going to become a very similar situation. The problem is when you borrow from the SBA, it's totally different than borrowing from a regular lender. You know, typically speaking, in a normal SBA loan pre-COVID, a normal situation, they will literally get every last bit of collateral. So when you took out any kind of loan with the SBA, they do a UCC on you, which is effectively they file a bookmark against your company to have access to all the assets that you have, right? And that they can go after those assets. So it's similar to a judgment, but it's not negative, right? Okay. It just allows them the opportunity to act on you if they need to. And then typically in the past, they would take collateral positions against primary residences, any other properties, any other ways they could collateralize. Now, they didn't collateralize these because they needed to be done so quickly, and that can take a period of time. But my concern for people is the ones that took it out. I don't think they understand the fallout if they don't end up paying it. You know, I mean, it's not going to be like, okay, well, you know what, guys, we tried. It's not going to be like that. You're borrowing from the government, man. I mean, it's a completely different conversation, and you're not using it as a liaison through a retail bank, which is a normal SBA loan. When you would go for a typical SBA loan, you go through Bank A that had a relationship with the SBA and would facilitate it. The SBA would cover 15%, and they would insure the back end of the loan so that the primary lender didn't eat it all if it went bad. In these cases, the SBA funded 100% of these disaster loans. So, I mean, I can't even imagine what the loss mitigation is looking like, but I don't think anybody's even looking at that. But I think they should start looking at that because even though the first year, obviously, you don't have to make any payments, who knows where our economy is going to be in a year? I mean, I have an idea myself, right? I mean, I feel as though things, obviously, and we've talked about this repeatedly, but just think about it. I mean, it could be very difficult for the companies that lathered themselves up with debt, right, wrong, or indifferent, because they may not have needed it, right? Like some people, like we were just talking, the whole point of this long story is the fact that there's a lot of people that took out that, and I'm not judging them, that didn't need it. Their businesses were doing fine. They just used it as an opportunity to have more capital and access to capital and to put it into things. Maybe those things were successful, maybe those things failed, but it's more debt, right? And it's debt that needs to be paid back. And I just don't, you know, when I was in the meeting today that I was explaining earlier, I mean, there's been just so much lathering of liquidity in this environment right now that, you know, you turn that spigot off. I mean, which effectively is what's going on now. No more EID. I mean, the EIDL expires, I don't know, like the end of the month or something. The reality of the situation is that the funding of them has dried up significantly. It's almost at a standstill. No more PPP. You know, all that stuff's dried up. There's no more checks being sent out. There's no more unemployment. All that liquidity is gone. So now the idea is, okay, we're going to run on, our economy's going to run, and we're going to be fine. Yes. And I think that's where, obviously, there's an enormous problem. All that liquidity is gone.
Yes. And it's all over. It doesn't matter what state it's going to be on, because New York City, 13,000, probably more apartments that are available right now. This was like 2 weeks ago. There's probably more now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole different thing, though, right? I mean, that's people trying to move out of cities as a result of the violence, right? So you're talking about a totally different lane, and people are over. I mean, it's. I'm not laughing. It's just I look at the fact that, you know, I've had, I'm not talking 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. I mean, I've had probably 7 to 8 clients a month being like, over the last 2 or 3 months, being like, listen, I gotta buy, we gotta get me approved for a mortgage, I gotta buy, man, the houses are going so quick in my neighborhood, I gotta, you know, in that neighborhood I want to buy. I'm like, do you really think that they're gonna run out of houses? Do you think your neighborhood's gonna be the first neighborhood in the history of our country to run out of houses to buy? It's not gonna happen. Why would you chase that up? You know I harp on this every time. I don't. It's just such a. It's just so dangerous, right? And it becomes effectively incredibly reckless when you start chasing, you know, any kind of asset, much less a real estate asset, just because of how difficult it is to unwind. You know, it's not like selling a stock. If you're upside down in the stock and you buy it wrong, you sell it, there's immediate liquidity to buy it, right?
Yes.
Cost to carry it. Same with a bond. Same with gold. Same, meaning commodities, etc. Same even with, honestly, there's a ton more liquidity if you're buying debt. If you buy debt, performing or not performing, there's a ton of liquidity there, right, to sell it quickly. Real estate is the slowest unwinding that you can get out there. I mean, if you wake up one day and you're like, man, I bought this wrong, I got to get out. Take the agent might get over there before you're done finishing your sentence, but the fact of the matter is, I mean, when you're at the top of the market and you overbought, the market's underneath you. You know, you put yourself in a really tough position. So I hope it doesn't happen that way. But I mean, broadly speaking, I think that, you know, we're probably the next couple months. Like, I know I initially said somewhere around November, and I still think that's going to be a really pivotal period for when you start to see things. But over the next quarter, right now, where the liquidity's been extracted, I think you're gonna, you know, it's like anything. And like I said last week or 2 weeks ago when we had the last podcast, you know, when you flood any area with liquidity, you prop it up, right?
Correct.
So look at the school loan debacle we exist in, right? Tons of liquidity because the government lends, they do no income verification. You know, schools just continue to raise the tuition. So you effectively, you know, supported that, enabled that, and built a bubble that our young society now is carrying, right?
Yes.
And obviously the colleges are reaping the rewards of that, right? Look at the auto loan business, same deal, tons of liquidity, right? Constantly keeps that industry propped up, right?
Well, all
allows,
this summer has been propped up with the, you know, used car sales that are going on.
yeah, but that's the one positive I've you know, out of all the data coming out, short term, midterm, just hot data too that comes out, is that people are buying used cars and more used cars, which means they're looking for a deal. And that's the one thing, honestly, that I've seen as far as information's being released that seems as though it's fiscally wise right now. Because why, like, why, if you're somebody that doesn't know where your next paycheck is coming from, or it might be in debate where your next check is coming from, right? Should you be out buying a new car, or maybe buy something a little economical that you can upgrade to when your job situation is a little more secure, right? It's just, I think that a lot of, and I'm not judging, I just think a lot of purchases in our broader economy, and I'm learning this. And I learned, look, I went, you know, I was around when the market, and I was in all the market when the market tanked in 08, and you got to learn people's behaviors on a wide swath. But you got to see, because this is different, but it's, you know, the way markets respond is all somewhat similar. And you got to see a different response here, which was literally, it was almost like people, you know, the market tanked, people got stuck in their house, right? And they just got all this kind of pent up aggression and anger and angst, etc. The minute those doors were allowed to open, they were all getting, it was just a free for all, right? They had the stimulus money, they had their EIDL, their PPP, however that was coming in. It didn't matter if it was coming in for the business or you personally. You were out buying clothes, you were buying this, you know what I mean? Which is why the numbers came out in, you know, that we got in July and August. Well, no, not July. It was probably closer to June and July. The numbers that you were getting on the quarterlies were even retail sales numbers and stuff. Now, granted, they were comparing in the first quarter, but we even saw it. Wasn't, to me, hard to believe. But then when you step back and you really look at the amount of liquidity that was pumped into the system, purposely, obviously, to keep it propped up, right? Because they thought it was a to be determined situation. And then you say, now you've extracted all that, and you're like, okay, let's see if you can walk on your own economy. And I just don't know. I mean, I don't know how that's going to work. So I think
you got people who went into the car loans and they're getting not into like 60-month, but how far 82-month loans have you seen?
They go out to 84 now,
84
7 years.
months,
yeah.
and they're thinking, yeah, I got a job right now. In about a year and a half to 2 years, I'll go. You know, the real estate market will go down, and I'll be able to purchase. But they're still gonna have that, you know, 60-something months more.
Yeah, but I think the one thing that I think you're giving credit where credit is probably not due. I don't think it's all people that are gainfully employed that went out and made these purchases. I think that this was the fact that if so, like, I think it was probably more correlated to just impulse purchases, right? They were stuck in the house, they had capital, they had cash in their pocket.
Yes.
At one point in time, early on because people had saved. They couldn't go out and spend money, right? You couldn't leave the house. So you weren't paying your mortgage, you weren't paying your car, you deferred everything, you just started saving. The minute that door opened, people started spending, right? Now the problem is that they spent through the summer, and now they may not have that job, but they just had more liquidity, and they didn't know when this, the understanding, the idea was like, oh, they're going to extend the unemployment, oh, they're going to add more money for this. All this stuff was an assumption. We had a society built entirely on hope, and that hope is, I think it's starting to dial back into reality and just, more rational expectations, at least in my opinion. So I think with that, you'll start to see more rational behaviors, right? I mean, if you're not think about somebody who was unemployed. It's crazy to think they were getting an extra $600 check. They were getting paid more money. I know we talked about this before, but just in theory, I mean, they were getting paid more money to stay home than they were to work.
Yes.
That's crazy, right? I mean, I don't think you need to be a Harvard MBA, to determine that's insane, right? And that went on for the whole summer. So you want to talk about just that with liquidity, right? Just that, the people that naturally would only get 70% of their best week in a 12-week period have now got that plus additional $600 checks a month. Just imagine that based upon just the amount of liquidity that you're pumping into something and focalize. And even with that, think about with all that extra liquidity on the retail side, think how many big companies went bankrupt. Oof. So you know what I'm saying? Like all these different variables working in conjunction with each other, it's tough to really forecast out. I think if you're not one of the big major companies that have built a tremendous moat around themselves or have a really firm fixture in consumer staples and stuff, it's really difficult. I think for me to like the smaller, like I said before, the smaller restaurants and stuff. I just think I'm hoping that the next bill targets them, and hopefully, and I think it's going to kind of be a wait and see after, because it's not going to happen before the election. Maybe after, I don't know. It's going to be really difficult.
Yeah. On top of that, people are they're getting into these 80-something loans with the vehicles. They're thinking about doing things in a year from now, not even counting because a lot of people don't know how politics works and how things have to stay propped up until whoever is going to take office next. And I think that we all should kind of have an idea of how government works, how politics works, and how financial markets, when it goes up and down, work as well. Because I mean, you're not buying real estate right now because that real estate is off the chart expensive right now. People are buying, overpaying $30,000-$70,000 over asking price.
These are all primary mortgages, right? So you're dealing in a situation where it's people. You're not seeing investors chase the market right now.
Correct.
If you ever watch, I'll give you an example, and hopefully it resonates. So Palm Beach Island, okay, it's I think it's per capita and concentrated. I think it's the wealthiest area might be in the world, right? So
wow, okay.
It's I mean, it's 10 minutes from where I'm at. You go over the bridge into the island, and $100 million houses on the water, on the Atlantic Ocean, etc. Right? So the point I'm trying to make is that you should see all the houses for sale. Now, when you see guys that are billionaires selling houses, which is their second house,
oh wow,
you shouldn't be buying houses,
oof,
right? If a guy that's gotten to the point where he's a billionaire and he owns a house that's $120 million, the sale price, and you see not only him, but you see all the sales, the for sales in that neighborhood tick up, and that concentration of intelligence and wealth is sitting in one area, and you're seeing everybody sell out, you should be asking yourself, why in the fuck are you buying?
Whoa. Right? Yeah.
But it's not just, for the record, it's not just look in a lot of the high-priced areas, and it's not because they're trying to free up liquidity. It's because they parked their money there with the idea that the asset was going to sustain, right, and that the asset was going to continue to go up because it's a safe haven for, tax diversions and things like that, right? Yes. Plus, you get the equity associated with it, and it's obviously Palm Beach Island, so it holds a significant amount of value. When you see them selling, it's because the understanding is that the expectation, you don't just sell a $120 million house overnight, right? The expectation is going to take a little while to sell because it takes a certain type of buyer. What I'm trying to make is when you see certain echelons of people selling and a totally different faction buying, and not only buying, but buying hand over fist and overpaying, like we're in the early onset of a bull run here with unemployment still running around 10 and the real unemployment run around 16 or 17, with who knows how it runs going forward. I just think that, I agree with you. I think that's part of what we always try and do is just try to educate. I don't know. Look, here's the problem. I try to educate as much as I can, but there's just so many people who base their whole philosophy on Facebook or some guy on Facebook that does incredible.
This is the topic of the podcast today, because like you said, tell me all the time, it's an upward battle when it comes to credit and finance, especially in credit repair. Could it be a marketing tactic that people are just using just to get people to go over there and do business with them? I mean,
you mean as far as misleading?
Misleading, yeah.
I think. Let me back up. I think that there are. Look, I'm not here to shit on anybody, so I'm not going to say anybody in particular.
No. We're here to, people know who we're talking about per se.
Well, I'm honestly not talking about anybody in particular. I'm talking about
people who are just on, people who don't educate people the right way. I mean, they're going to feel some type of way.
Hold on. Let me say. So back in, I don't know, however long we've been doing this, a long time. So when you go back in the early infancy of this, even go back to 10 years roughly, right? The idea of credit repair, just the credit repair portion, because obviously we do a lot more than that. It's one portion. It's the largest one, the most popular one, the one that people need to get before they can hit any of these other areas or bullet points or goals, right? But back when you go back 10 years, the idea of it wasn't even grasped by people. Like, it started out with, you can't clean credit. It's not real. That was the fight back then, right? Because now going forward, it went, I would say it really did a change around 16, 17, when people started being like, wow, this you can really clean credit, right? It's a real thing. It's not made up. It's not just all scammers. There's people that can really do it, right? However they do it is a totally different conversation. And then it turned into even somebody with the simplest understanding of finance said, look, well, even in a bad market, people need their credit clean. In a good market, people need their credit clean. So it's effective, recession proof, right?
Correct.
To a certain degree. So now you have the business, the quantity of credit repair businesses went from a very small amount who really do business to a significant amount. Right? And since there's no barrier to entry into it, right? Meaning you don't have to go get licensed, even though I am. You don't need to go get regulated, even though I am. Because you do it to separate yourself from the competition, even though you don't need to do that. There's no barrier to entry, so anybody can do it. They can do it on the side. They can do it as their primary means. And then all these people, since, again, there's no barrier of entry to make a YouTube video or a Facebook video, if you're good at marketing and you used to be in some multi-level marketing scenario and you know how to do this and do that and you already got a base that you had before, you can grow your stuff. And if you have a good way of putting two sentences together, you can spit out all kinds of dog shit, right?
Correct.
And the problem is nobody has a centralized home to go back to, right, in order to be able to fact check people. And that's obviously, there's probably a reason for that, right? The fact that you can't just get simple direct answers in something like this. You have to the typical, consumer has to sit and try and pick and choose who they think is telling the truth or who they think is bullshitting, right?
Correct.
And the fact of the matter is that the ones, a lot of the ones that are getting a lot of traction are doing so because they're exceptional at marketing, right? And they have all the quirks and the dings and the dangs and all this stuff. I mean, I'm talking about they get millions and millions of views, right? Each video where you get tons of views. I mean, they're exceptional. Some people do understand that. I'm not trying to act like we're the only people in the business that understand the different legs of this, because that would be ridiculous. There are other people that do understand it. I just, on a daily basis, look, I don't, as you know, I'm not on social media. I don't go on,
Correct.
I don't watch videos on YouTube. I don't do any of that. So I don't even know the extent of it. I just know what comes back to me. And I get questions asked, and we get them on the intake calls. We get them just in regular correspondence.
Yep.
And some of the stuff that I have to refute is so fucking stupid. And I'm not calling the consumer stupid. I'm calling the fact that somebody could repeat it and then somehow tie a business model to it. It's infuriating to me, right?
Yes.
Because you're just playing on the individual card. You're just literally, it's almost like the predatory relationship we talk about that happens a lot at auto dealers, right?
Yes.
Where they're just eyeballing, or they're getting an understanding of how the level of understanding that individual has, and they're basically just milking it, right? And they're throwing all kinds of dog shit at them because they don't know how to pick the dog shit apart, right? Because they don't really know it as well as they should, meaning that the person that's pushing it and the person that's listening to it is just chewing it up because it sounds good. Right. So, I mean, that's why I said on the last podcast, you should be able to back into it. You know, the guy that you're talking about right now, you know, he asked you why you charge for credit repair, I think was the first part. And then the second part.
Well, I could show people what
but the second, but cross his name out. I mean, don't show his name.
No. I mean, he commented on my YouTube, so his name is gonna be there. Don't worry about it.
Well, listen. The point of the
I'm
matter
the one
is
that deals
question,
with it, and this podcast is about people getting the right information. All right.
Well, listen.
So,
the point I'm trying to make is that in the conversation you emailed about this as well was that it was, well, listen. You know, you shouldn't be charging people for credit pay. You should just give you information away for free. And I mean, first of all, I don't. We live in a capitalistic society, right?
Correct.
I mean, this is the environment we live in. If you want to live in a socialist country where they just give stuff away, that's fine. You know, and then the argument to that was, by the way, this is an individual that reached out to us previously and asked for a quote on his credit, said, following us for so long, and this, that, the other thing. So it's almost like he's baiting you in an effort to try and squeeze and get whatever information out. And his response was, well, you know, you should be giving away your systems. You shouldn't even charge for it if you know what to do. And he started making all these assumptions about you can't dispute online and nah. And it was all the shit, the textbook stuff that you get every single credit board that's out there, right? Every single early day guy that just starts to learn credit repair, and it's the low-hanging fruit. It's like, online disputing doesn't work. Well, why don't you ask any one of our clients that's sitting in their house, their nice house now with their 3% rate, and their auto loan with their 1.5% rate, and their credit cards with the high limits and low balances, because they learned from us from an educational perspective on exactly how to do things going forward. They all got their reports clean with a portion of it through online disputing, and they were the accounts, not the personal information. So I think that the assumptions that people make, I think, are in large part their own way of limiting the reality situation. Because, I mean, why would you, if you were under the assumption, first of all, why would you ever ask somebody to give away information? I mean, I don't really understand that. It's not, this isn't a social service, but more importantly, then the question was about the system. And he's like, oh, you just copied the system. Let's be clear about something, okay? The system is my systems, right? And I came out with these systems myself, all on my own. It's completely proprietary. They came out in 2014. All right, I put these out in 2014.
yes.
It's my company that produces these. So nobody had absolutely anything to do with any systems I've put together. Okay, this is through my own trial and error before 14. Now, we came out in 14. There was no systems out in 14. There was no. The suggestion that the individual you're referencing tried to make was the fact that, you guys just took stuff from other people. I said, no, all those systems came out years after ours. Matter of fact, I've had to exercise the copyright on our system because the system's copywritten. I've had to exercise it like 5 or 6 times from people that were trying to use stuff from our systems and trying to just flat out resell our systems as their own, or saying they were affiliated with the company and taking the money for them. So, if the idea in this instance.
Oh, there he is. He just logged on. he's listening to us.
Good. I mean, that's good because it should give some clarification.
Hello. So yeah, we're clarifying your comment on our YouTube video, and there's a whole bunch of misinformation. So this podcast is on misinformation. I told you to log on to our YouTube channel where, hey, listen, you got any question, you ask us and we get back to you. We don't shy away from questions, right? So John is getting into which when you email me, John is the person who replies back to all of my emails, so you to know. But let's continue, John, because he also talks about disputing online.
Right. So I read. Well, let's go back for a second. So let's just finish this. So we came out with the system in 2014. There was no systems out in 2014. And I got news for you. There aren't any systems that I'm aware of that have been around for 6 years, 6.5 years since we started selling them consistently. Most of these companies sell a system, they shut down, they open up under a different name, same marketing, they go through the whole social media spiel, sell it until people stop wanting to buy it, go back hiding again, change a couple things, come back out. We don't have to do that.
Correct.
There's no need to do that. There's no need to mislead people. There's absolutely no need to mislead people in any of these situations. Like I said, the only reason I acted on those copyright infringements was because they were out selling our system and keeping the money. And that's not right. I mean, you're not going to go out and sell the stuff that my proprietary system, which is copywritten, and not cut and paste like it was suggested, and not diluted like it was suggested. The Credit Life system is a piece of the $2,000 professional system that we sell. It is a portion of it, a very significant portion of it, not the entire portion of it, obviously, but it's a significant portion of it. So there's no diluting of our systems anywhere.
Correct.
It's ridiculous. And just to ask all the people that have utilized it successfully over the last however many we've sold and over the course of time. But again, online disputing, I'd like to go back to any client of ours that is listening or is on this podcast or that listens over the course of time to feel free to chime in at any point in time about how successful online disputing has been for you over the course of time with the removals that you've seen online. Correct. It's not limiting any of your rights. Ask any one of our 10,000, 400 or 500 clients at this point if any of them had their rights limited, if any of that stuff. I'm very well versed on the legal side of all this credit debt stuff, among other things, the finance, real estate, etc. I don't know what law is being referenced that said you're limiting your ability to do anything when you dispute online. And obviously that's been a misnomer. I know personally, because of the accounts that I've worked on over the course of time, I haven't seen any limitation at any point in time in any situation. And there are times when our clients go to court. That happens. And at no point in time in any one of those clients over 10 years, over 10,468 clients at this point, have we ever had a problem where somebody came back and said, because you disputed online, you eliminated my ability to do this. No, it's bullshit. It's bullshit, and the reality of the situation is it's misleading to people, and it's unnecessary, because all you're doing is you're building walls around a situation that is already hard enough for people to trek through to begin with. So whoever this individual was repeated it to because he heard it, that's fine. His opinion is fine. But I can tell you from personal experience, we don't speak from speculation. We speak from 10 years and that many clients, of which many talk very, 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 very. You could reach out to any one of them. We can give you a list. You could reach out to any one of them and ask them how their experience was. Good, bad, or indifferent, we get them to their goals. And the reality of the situation is disputing online is one of those processes which we haven't had any hindrance with. And no, it's not just to remove personal information. So, I mean, I think the broader purpose of this podcast is just the fact that, and the title behind the podcast is that there's just so much misinformation out there right now that is running rampant, and it becomes assumption. If you get enough people in a closed confined scenario, meaning in a credit board or in a forum or in any kind of organized, I know my FICO has boards too. There's boards everywhere.
Correct.
And the fact
even Credit Karma has boards.
That's what I'm saying. You get enough concentration of like-minded people with the same level of understanding, but they speak in a way and in such a fashion that they try to fashion it onto other people and project it as though it's fact, then that's exactly what that individual is gonna think. And unfortunately, with so many different opinions out there and absolutely no centralized body to be able to refute it with, it leaves everything open to interpretation, right? Whereas in any other walk of business, there would be regulation. I fully support regulation in this business. Matter of fact, I would love if they make people get regulated for this. I would love if they start making people have a certain bonding requirement. They raise the like go through the moon on that to make sure the individual that's doing credit repair has a certain amount of liquidity in order to be able to do it, or the business is supported. They have a large enough bond. I would love that, because you know how quickly that would weed out the nonsense. It would end it overnight, because nobody's going to go. Number one, in order to be able to get a bond, you have to obviously be credit worthy and you have to pay for it. The amount of the bond is consistent with obviously the size of the bond that's required. But on top of that, if you require people to go through a regulatory process, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I would love that, because then you could start weeding out, and like every other industry there is, you could start getting the cream to the top, right?
Yes.
Rather than having to sit around and hack weeds with the guy that does it as a third job, which there's nothing wrong with hustling. Don't misunderstand me. But if you're going to present yourself as a third job or second job hustler, then say that to the person. Don't put it on. Don't come out and act as though you're dealing with banks on a regular basis and you're communicating with collection companies and settlement companies and that you have this book of knowledge and understanding when you don't. You know, I understand the phrase "fake it till you make it." I get it, and I understand a lot of people think that is like the motto for life. But the reality is, when you're dealing with people's finances, right, and you're dealing with people's financial livelihood, and you're misleading them, you know that can be instrumental in a number of other problems for people. So if you don't treat this with the level of delicacy that it requires, you know, I mean, I don't understand why you would be in it in the first place. I understand it's a quick buck, and if you're a snake oil salesman, you can do it, but in order to make this in the long haul, which there aren't a lot of us, but in order to make it, you got to be able to show and prove.
Yeah.
And you got to know what you're talking about. So I really think at the end of the day, you know, the important thing, and I can't stress this enough to people, whoever listens to this or however many exposures this gets, and I said this on previous ones, a lot of them, is that you really have to do your research on the people that you get in business with, or that you agree to help you in an environment like this that's unregulated, like credit repair.
Correct.
Right, for large part, and what I'm saying by doing your research is, I'm not talking about reviews that can be manufactured. I'm not talking about going to the website, which can be primed and prodded. Right, I'm talking about do your research and break the human being down. Get them on the phone. A lot of these companies that don't necessarily pull the weight that they should, or maybe are falling short of a lot of the expectations. They don't want to talk on it. They don't want to communicate. They hide behind a portal in a lot of cases. They'll get some type of a cloud, what are those things, CRM type program where they log in and there's no human contact.
Correct.
And that's done for a reason. That's not a coincidence. It's because they don't know the fucking answers. And they don't want to deal with the answers, because even though that's a huge part of the business, right?
Correct.
I mean, I had a client over reached out today. We're not done the second round yet, and she was like, "Oh, well, you know, I don't see anything removed yet, right?" And lo and behold, she didn't know how to read the report. The one bureau is entirely clean, right?
Was it
So
Lily? What's her name? Lily? No.
No, it wasn't Lily. But we don't need to say her name.
You
But
want
the
to say
fact
her
of the
name?
matter is,
Okay. Yeah.
the fact of the matter is, people need that handholding, right? They need that communication. Everybody's got a different functioning understanding of this business.
Yes.
So you know, I plead with people again to please do your research, and that doesn't always mean that maybe you want to use us. You don't have to use us. If for some reason you don't like something about us, by all means, I'm speaking generally right now. I'm speaking generally right now as far as, like, you know, when you do it, just don't make yourself a mark. I mean, don't make it so easy. You know, do back into things. And if you got questions, ask us. You don't have to be a client. You know, when we offered the validation letters a couple podcasts ago, a couple people took us up on that, which was smart.
Correct.
Right? We had a podcast maybe a month ago where we talked about what to do when you start with a collection letter.
Yep. That's this one right here. Yep, I got it.
And in doing so, we had people that reached out and they utilized it. They weren't clients of ours. They just reached out and asked how to get if they could get our validation letter, which we're more than happy to provide. Because again, as much as people don't want to believe it, we really care about how this plays out. The only people that understand are our clients that we've helped. Anybody that looks in from the outside, from a fishbowl, not anybody, but strangers that maybe don't have the familiarity with the amount of time that we've been doing this, to the extent that we've been doing this, for how many years we've been doing this. You know, nobody would make, Gizzy made videos for what, 12 years? Nobody would make 12 years of videos, okay? I mean, I don't, unless it was something, there was something there. So, I mean, I for anybody else that's involved, thinking about getting involved in with a credit repair company, definitely do your homework. Don't just be throwing money around.
Correct.
And also, you know, if you got questions, ask them, because I think that helps to alleviate a lot of the confusion.
Well, you know he's gonna respond, and a lot of times these people, they're just trying to dig for information on how to do things, right, Jay?
Yeah, but you know, but listen. There's different. Listen, anybody that knows me, even in a business sense, knows that I can butt heads as long as you want to butt heads. But the minute you come and communicate with me, like, listen, this in a contrite way, and you're honest in the whole situation, I'm a totally different person, because it's just a respectful way of coming at it. If you're trying to find an alternative angle to backdoor situation to try and get information, it's like, why? Why would I want to give you free information when you're trying to antagonize in an effort to try and procure it? Right? I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. And it's not specific to this individual, because it's not the first time. But he tries to squeeze information out. Nobody wants to pay, because the sad reality is, in all likelihood, that individual, among other ones, has probably paid for terrible information in the past. And they've been burned, right?
Yes.
So they're naturally skeptical now of any information that they purchase, and it's understandable. I get it. It's just, unfortunately, maybe that same level of discretion should have been used on the earlier ones that you purchased, and it probably could have saved you from pushing away the one that'll probably help.
Correct.
You know, and that's not specific to any one human being. It just happens. It's just the way things happen sometimes. So, you know, look, it is what it is. I mean, it's a part of the business, and I think the largest part of the business right now, I don't say the largest part of business, but a big part of the business right now, and on a daily basis, is literally refuting ridiculousness. Like, just we had a new client start last week. If you, I don't remember, I don't say her name, but on the intake call we had with her, because every new client we get, we do intake calls. On the intake call, she was like, "Yeah, you know, I was talking to another company."
Yes,
and the guy
we stood on for her for like 20, 25 minutes. I remember her.
Yeah, and she was like, I was talking with another company, and they told me immediately I got to freeze my LexisNexis. And I'm like, well, why on earth would you? Number one, the freezing thing is ridiculous to begin with. And again, I've talked about this 100 times, but the fact of the matter is, what it's causing now.
Probably
is
Timothy knows about freezing all 8 bureaus. Remember, there's 8 bureaus.
Right.
Jay.
So in this, but what it's doing is causing split files now. So people, clients of ours, maybe on this, listening to this, that know that we've had to merge their files back over the last 2 months, 2 or 3 months. I've probably merged, I can't even tell you how many files I've had to get merged, because there were split files as a result of that, which is unnecessary. But in this particular case, she was like, I talked to another company. The other company told me immediately I had to freeze my LexisNexis. That would be the first thing we do. And I go, well, why would you freeze? I mean, let's just play along with the theory, but why would you freeze your LexisNexis? LexisNexis is only a
why would you freeze your
LexisNexis,
Timothy?
Hold on. LexisNexis is only a public record database.
Correct.
If you don't have any public records, then why would you freeze it? I mean, I don't even. The idea behind it is it doesn't work anyway. It's flawed. But the fact of the matter is that if you didn't have public record, why would somebody tell you that? Why would you go through freezing a bureau that only produces, or a site that only produces public record information, if you don't have a lien or a judgment or anything? You see what I'm saying? You see the kind of discrepancy there? Like, I don't even buy into the freezing anyway, because I've had to clean up the fallout when it doesn't work, right? Merging the files back and then actually cleaning them up. But as far as the idea behind people saying, yo, immediately you need to freeze your LexisNexis when you don't have public, then the fundamental purpose of it is gone. Like, even the sales pitch, like, because you're selling them, the idea behind the sales pitch to people is that which is not true, by the way, but is that if you freeze it, they can't report it, and that the bureaus aren't going to access it, right? So effectively, it's not going to work its way in. So when you dispute it, it doesn't come back, and so on and so forth, right?
Yes.
So that obviously is not true, because what ends up happening is that it ends up freezing the initial report, and then it shows a split file. So it still reports. It just reports on a B. And then ultimately that B comes up and it shows again, meaning A and B, 2 different files, right? It gives you a split file. And again, this isn't an opinion. This is stuff I've had to put back together for clients. And it's happening so much now, because there's people that watch some of these videos and they're just like, oh, they said you got to freeze it. If you freeze it, then you're good. For people that don't even get the service from somebody go and they freeze their Lexus Nexus or Sage Stream, and they get all this fallout from it. They have no idea what happened.
Correct.
And the true levity of it isn't really gonna really come to roost until, because this whole idea of this kind of came out like a couple years ago, and then it kind of fizzled out, and then it heated back up like earlier this year, right? It really heated back up this year. So people are only starting to see like the downside of it now, right? Same way people started seeing the downside of when you would file a fake police report, right? Correct. And all the downsides that come with that when you go and file a fake fraud affidavit and a fake police report, and now every one of them gets sent to special handling, and all the other you can't dispute online because they lock it, and all these other different things now that come along with that, that eliminate the possibility, especially if they catch you and think that you're not telling the truth. How difficult it makes it going forward to get those accounts off. And why make the job more difficult?
Correct.
It's already tough enough as it is. It's a very difficult job to actually do and actually get done. We're not over here saying that this is an easy job. It's not an easy job. It's a difficult job. Not just the communication sometimes, but the work itself. A very difficult job. It requires a lot of work, man. I mean, I work 6 days a week. I have 2 other businesses. I work 6 days a week, and a lot of my time is spent doing this stuff. On a regular, so it's not something that you can just do on the side if you take it serious. To really the extent that it needs to be done in order to satisfy what the expectation of the client is, right? Because the expectation of the client is to get them where they need to be, and I'm not sure that's always what happens.
Well, here's what he said. He said that I feel famous. He said, which to my response to that is, this is more of a forum type of podcast that I have here from December 26, 2019. The way that you think, the way that you're thinking about things with credit, there's hundreds of or more, thousands of more people that are thinking that way. So we educate you. Millions. Okay.
He's not alone in that.
You're not alone.
It's just you don't normally see somebody get on a soapbox like that, right? Somebody, it normally will be a situation where they come in hot. It's like going to a doctor, right? You go to a doctor and you tell the doctor what you learned online, and the doctor's like, sure, right? And they're normally annoyed because that's what doctors got to do now that you got MedRx or whatever it is online. You can check whatever your symptoms
imagine
are,
that?
Right? What's that?
I say yes. You imagine that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they normally get this is the same idea though, right? Everybody goes in to try and self-diagnose because they don't know where they can comfortably go and trust the individuals that are giving them the information that they're giving. And I get it, man. I get it. I understand the frustration. The only way that you're going to be able to weed out the good ones from the bad ones, or the good stuff from the bad stuff, is by doing your research. I mean, and really researching the individuals that you're working with and the degree to which they tell people and things like that. I mean, I think results should typically speak for themselves. And when you got 11 or 12 years, forget about the system stuff. But when you got 11 or 12 years of assisting people and literally endless videos of people in their houses, right? Like walking into the house that they just bought.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
And you know what, too, Jay? I'm sure he's bought a couple of systems, and he's probably been using different systems every 2 or 3 months.
But again, he's a microcosm of a much larger issue, right? Mm-hmm. He's just no disrespect, but it ends up being he's a cog in a larger wheel where it's the same issue, though, right? And this is the thing that sucks. Issue being that consumer doesn't know who to trust, and that's the issue, right? And it doesn't matter. Like I said, you would think if you're somebody that's just starting credit repair now, right? Just starting credit repair business right now, you would think theoretically that after 10 years of making videos, endless videos, right? And I don't make videos, right? That's your thing. You make the videos and you post all the results, and that's great. And I think it is. And it gives you a level of transparency. But after you got thousands upon thousands of videos out there, right? Testimonials, results. Literally, there was a point in time when you would go sit down with the clients and have them do like a 45-minute testimony where they talked about it and they went into extreme depths and everything. Yeah. And nobody does that. Nobody does that. Nobody goes to that level of transparency. Yet you still have people that will come back and be like, do you think you can help me? Like, how do you respond to that, right? Like, how do you respond to do you think you can help me when you just probably watched 65 videos of where we help people, and what makes your situation unique? I'll tell you what makes your situation unique. What makes your situation unique is that you first tried to file a fake police report because you thought that was quick, right?
Yep.
You thought that was the solution. That didn't work. Then you tried freezing everything on your credit report like an ice block, and then you realized that doesn't work. Then you got some free stuff online, and you did that for like 6 months because you didn't want to pay anybody again because the first two burned the shit out of you, right? Now you come to us after all that nonsense happens, and it's, do you think you can help me? Oh, and it's like, well, man, listen, I got news for you. We could have helped you on the first leg. We can help you on this leg, but now you just made it harder for us because you just went the worst ways that you could coming into it from somebody that, you know, maybe doesn't entirely know what they're doing, and maybe that police report wasn't legitimate, and they recognize it. Now you just made it 10 times harder for us to do it. But we can still do it.
Correct.
But the problem is you're stuck on the time frame that the first guy quoted you, right?
Oh.
When the guy said, I'll get it done in a month.
Yep.
And you think a month is realistic, right? So for the next 2, 3, or 4 times that you did it, it was, well, if I'm going to pay, it's got to get done in 2 months. No, man, it doesn't work like that. So, you know, and there's no centralized way to get the word out loud enough, you know, because we're not out pining, you know, you're not out pining for making up bullshit and all that kinds of stuff. So at the end of the day, you know, the followers we have, honestly, that you have, I'm not going to take credit for it, the followers that you have were people, honestly, we've helped.
Oh, yeah.
And they stay good clients. A lot of our clients, a large majority of our clients stay in touch. They ask questions. For people.
Today, Jay, someone contacted me from 5 years ago. He first contacted me January 20th, 2015. And
that's what I'm saying, but that's not unusual.
Correct.
You know what I mean? But that's what I'm saying. So it's like, it's not like it's the same idea, right? Theoretically, you would think with all the videos you've made and all the results and the endless testimonials and the visits and the this and the that, it's just endless. You would think that would be like, okay, this looks like a reliable scenario, right?
Correct.
But unfortunately, it just, you still get it, and you get it because of the things I explained earlier, which is unfortunate because it's tough for a consumer, you know? You know, when I get I can sympathize with the perspective of just not knowing who you can trust, right? If you don't know how this stuff works and it's a giant question mark and it's a guessing game.
Yeah.
I can certainly sympathize with that, right? I mean, I think anybody can. If you don't know subject matter and you're guessing, and as somebody's giving you a good sales pitch, and most importantly, I think in all of these scenarios, it always comes back to how quickly that person tells them they can get it done, right?
Yes.
That's what it always comes back to. I went when he told me he could get done in a month. Look, we've gotten people done in the same day.
Correct.
But that's not what I'm not gonna come out and spit that out to somebody. That's not gonna be my lead in, and I'm not judging anybody that does. I'm just saying that I think what would be best for the business as a whole is for those expectations to. And unfortunately, there's just so much. The expectations are just so all over the place, so it misleads the consumer, and then it just causes confusion, and then it just makes situations worse.
Oh yeah, I mean, some people contact me, and the first thing they say is, "I want to pay to get the 10-day credit repair results." That's it.
I've talked to people that said the 2-day.
Oh.
Is this the 2-day program? And I'm being serious though. That happens a lot, and it's like, listen, sure. I mean, you can sign up for it, but I tell you, you know, the same day, 2-day, it's all contingent upon the report. There's a number of variables that come into play. A lot of those variables, like, if we're the first one to get our hands on a report, if we're the first ones to dispute, those files move by lightning quick.
Yes.
Because we know what we're doing. They move by quick. When we got to navigate around landmines and then figure out a way to pave a comfortable path, that sometimes can take a little bit longer, you know, and only the people that have experienced understand that have been through our program and have come out on the other side and are in their house now or have their car, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, it's really just a commitment to the broader process. If that's not something you got, that's what we always say. I mean, setting the expectation early on is the most important part of this process. We're not out there when clients reach out and ask for quotes. They ask what's the time frame, and they get the right time frame. You know, we base the average based on the average amount, based on the 10,000 plus clients we have. And it may take a little longer, may get done quicker, but you know, it's not a binary service. So as a result, you gotta set the expectations, just as important almost as the results themselves.
Okay. Okay. He actually had a question about Capital One. He says he says, okay, experts, how do you fight Capital One? And by the way, a lot of people see my credit repair results videos. There's a whole bunch of Capital Ones being removed from all three bureaus. Okay, but he says Capital One, if they come back with a letter that says they will not correct their reporting, keep in mind this is a letter. Oh, this is after a CFPB complaint.
There's another way. So the CFPB was instrumental, just to bring this full circle, was instrumental on the back end of the crisis in 08, 09. They really started to take shape in 2010 when people were going through foreclosures and assets were being taken. And the banks were ignoring it because it was in such high supply.
Okay.
That effectiveness in the CFPB diminished exponentially after all that got hemmed out by 2014, 2015, going into 2016. If anybody tells you otherwise, it's unfortunate because it's not as effective as it used to be. It has no real bearing on anything anyway. It's just a fact. But on top of it, in regards to you getting a letter from a creditor, you got to understand something. We tell this to our clients on our intake calls every single time we have one.
Correct.
Creditors have to respond to dispute. We dispute with the bureaus. We don't dispute the creditors because it's a waste of time. The creditors always defend their position. Always. Now, granted, you might get one or two small instances where you see collection companies and such, but you're always, if you know what you're doing, you're disputing with the bureaus and you're identifying those discrepancies, and the bureaus are removing it that way. Now, if you're disputing with a creditor, you're going to run that risk every single time. And it doesn't matter if they send you the letter. Again, go back to any one of our clients. First round, just speaking first round, any round, if we don't have the account off, every single round we send out, those creditors or collection companies will be like, we've determined that this is a valid debt based on a previous dispute that we sent. And then it comes off. And the clients see exactly what we described to them in the first one. So this isn't like hyperbole. This isn't an anecdote. This is every single time. We tell them on the intake call, you're going to get letters from the creditors. Correct. Send them over because there's personal information in it that we can use in future disputes, but disregard what they write because every single time, this is verbatim what we say in the intake calls. Every single time they defend their position. Now, there might be a handful of times you might get a collection company who bought the debt too quick and didn't have enough as far as substantiation in regards to on file, so they'll send you the letter where it was removed. You won't almost not ever. I mean, the possibilities and the percentages behind when you see a creditor send a letter out and say, yeah, we're removing the account, I couldn't even tell you. They got to be beneath 10%, and it's got to be a really extraordinary situation where they send that letter, because it starts to debunk their own credibility when they're actually they're sending letters where their reporting is incorrect and they're going to remove the account, and you're doing so in a situation where it's isolated. So to answer the broader question, I would start disputing with the bureaus. If your prime lane is disputing with the creditors, I think that's a complete waste, and you're going the long route of the long route of the long route. On top of that, if you don't know how to properly dispute with the bureaus, I would strongly suggest either you get with a company that knows how to, or I don't even want to mention systems with this guy, but get with a company that knows how to dispute properly with the credit bureaus. That's it. I mean, you go in with the creditor, you're gonna be doing this endlessly, and I have a feeling you've been doing it for a little while. So if you're not getting the results or getting anywhere near, and they just keep sending you a letter back. The other thing you need to understand is, in the confines of any dispute, it's not uncommon for us to send a first round out for a client, get 65% of the accounts removed, the other 35% come back verified.
Correct.
That doesn't mean those accounts can't be removed in the second round or the third round. We could have an account verified in the first three disputes, and the fourth dispute will come off because we make adjustments. We make adjustments in how we get them off. We know how they go on, so we know how to take them off as far as the general understanding of the algorithm that puts these on the reports. There's certain requirements, prerequisites within each account that gets sent over from the creditor to the bureaus that it has to meet. So if you know how it goes on, you can know how it comes off. It just doesn't always come off when you want it to come off. All three bureaus work autonomously from each other. And in doing so, their algorithms are a little tweaked from the next. And as a result, that's not uncommon. You see Equifax maybe done first, then TransUnion, then Experian. It's not uncommon at all. Experian fights with everybody about everything. So Correct. It requires more work. The problem is the disputes take a couple weeks to get back, and that's the waiting game that you have to experience.
Correct. Correct. And he says Capital One accounts are charged off. I'd love to hear how you would deal with this response. Okay, cool. You already did.
Well, hold on. Capital One accounts are charged off.
Yeah, the Capital One accounts are charged off.
Well, if they're charged off, they would have been resold. So who is the resale to? Because the charging off of it doesn't hold any water. That has nothing to do other than the update on the account. So when you have 6 months rolling on a late on a Capital One card, and then it reverts over to charge off, it's because after 4 months they start looking for buyers of non-payment. So then once they definitively get it, it's charged off. It's a zero balance. It doesn't deviate. Just because the verbiage on the account changes doesn't make it any more difficult. I don't understand that. He's not the only one that's asked about the Capital One stuff. I don't understand it. We get that question a lot. That's got to be another credit board thing. Capital Ones are so hard to remove. Like, I don't.
Correct.
The thing that we see on our end is when you remove a Capital One, even if it's an open account, and we tell this to clients, it's Capital One First Premier does it too, is that if they have an open Capital One with a couple lates on it, or a lot of lates on it, we tell them, listen, there's a chance with these two particular creditors, if we dispute it and it's an open account, they could close it. Because Capital One plays a game where, if you don't play borrowers, we're going to take the ball and run with it, and you're not going to get it back. So effectively what happens is we go and we dispute it, we get it removed, they know that it's removed, so they shut down the spending on the open card, and they make them reapply. Now, they always open the card back up, but what ends up happening is they make the client go through that extra step in an effort to get them re-reporting because they know that they've been removed from the report at that point. And they've lost the leverage against the client, especially on open accounts. Like, he's talking about a closed account, but it doesn't mean that it's any more difficult or easier just because it says charged off as opposed to 8 months late. Like, it's the same idea. Matter of fact, the 8 months late one has an outstanding balance. The charged off one at least is zero balance because they had to resell it. For anybody not familiar with what charge off means, it means they charged it off for tax purposes. So if it was a $6,500 credit card debt that didn't get paid with interest, they sell to a collection company, they get 2 or 3 cents on the dollar, and then they take the tax difference, whatever the deficiency is between that, they take that as a tax write-off. So that offsets their ordinary income tax as a bank, right? Now they get hundreds of thousands of those, millions of those in the course of a year. It helps to offset their gains, right? Any money they bring in after that, they have to book as profit because they just took a charge off on it, right? Yes. And they don't want to do that. So when you get it to the collection company, after they sell to the collection company, if you've ever called the primary creditor and be like, I want to make a payment to you, they'll be like, we can't accept the payment. Because if they accepted the payment, number one, they don't own it anymore because they've sold it. So the interest in that debt has been resold. But if they did, if somebody was servicing it for them, they still wouldn't take it. It would have to go through because they'd have to bring it in as additional ordinary income. So it becomes a situation that it's not any more difficult. There's nothing more specialized about Capital One and how they report or what they report, but they are more diligent because it's a primary means of the business. American Express is the same way. It's very diligent and aware about how when accounts get removed, they'll close them and they'll do what they have to do in order to be able to protect their interest. I see it. I've been seeing it now with Capital One for 10 years. It's nothing new.
Nothing new. Hope that answers your question, Timothy. Again, thank you so much for your question. Again, this is a forum. This is not really speaking to you, but it speaks to all the other people who may be misinformed. And then we have people like Ernest Dobson and talk about John speaking the truth. I've experienced no negative issues so far. Since March, I have 2 credit bureaus clean and only 1 item left on the last one. So that's great. I mean, and that is usually how people get results, right, Jay? In about 3 to 4 months. I mean, that's what I tell people. Even people who contact me and say, can I get the 10-day results? I said, listen, there's only about 5 to 6% of our customers who get those fast results. But, you will see results. The only thing is that it's a process. So managing expectations in the credit repair business I believe is the best thing.
I think it's the only way it's the only way you can be sustainable. I mean, obviously, there's results. That's obviously important, but I think the expectations are just as important. And yeah, with Ernest, we got, and we only have 1 left on the 3rd. So we got the other 2 are clean. We got 1 account left on the 3rd. So he's almost entirely done. He's like 98% done, and he started. Yeah, I think he started in April. I thought actually, but we're right there though. But yeah, I mean, look, not everybody gets done quick. Some people take longer. I mean, we're not here to sugarcoat anything. Some people take longer, and it's because of the things explained earlier. Some people just take longer, but you got to trust the process. For anybody that's unfamiliar, we say that to anybody getting started. It's a process. You got to trust our process.
Correct.
I mean, it's a process that ultimately you got to buy into. If you don't buy into it, then don't sign up with us, because it's not. We're not.
I don't know where he's going. I don't know what type of credit Timothy's trying to get, where he keeps asking. I'd like to see how you are able to have bankruptcies removed from LexisNexis. I mean, why would someone want it to be removed from LexisNexis?
It doesn't. It won't ever get removed from LexisNexis. Steve, this is the misinformation, right? This is somebody who's trying to project a level of intelligence that they don't understand, right? So let's back up. So the fact of the matter is that LexisNexis is a public record database, right? Correct. They are a governmental public record database. So any court records, evictions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that's where they get it. It can't be compromised. There's no way to compromise it directly from LexisNexis. The bureaus, this is for you specifically, Timothy, the bureaus are a third-party reporting agency. They take information from here and there, and they report it. Now, a bankruptcy just happens to be a creditor account, just like Capital One, just like Credit One, just like your mortgage from Bank of America. Yet this comes from the bankruptcy court, comes from the courthouse. That's where it gets reported from, that particular locality, which it'll say on there, whatever county you're in. Okay, it'll say that. It'll say, let's say you filed your BK in Philadelphia County. It'll say Philadelphia County. If you really look into it, docket number X and Y. They have to report to the bureaus each month. So when they send that information over, okay, the same discrepancies you find in any other account, whether it's Capital One, Credit One, Wells Fargo, et cetera, exist in those bankruptcy accounts. So the same way you get the other accounts removed, you can get that account removed. You're not ever going to get it off the database of LexisNexis. That's irrelevant. Because what creditors use LexisNexis when they're pulling credit? I've learned nowadays, if you go through Zillow or you go through Apartments.com or any of these, what they're doing now is, if you go through these mainstream, they're taking extra layers to protect their landlords and stuff, because they now do apartment rentals, and housing rentals. So what they'll do is they'll do an Experian merge with LexisNexis to get a full report in order to see what dockets have been filed against that individual, whether it be landlord complaints, judgments against that aren't on the report, etc. That's the only time you're going to see that. When you go for a credit card, they're not pulling an independent LexisNexis report. When you go for a mortgage, they're not pulling an independent LexisNexis report. You know how we know this? Because we help people do it every single day. Speaking of Ernest buying a new car.
Ernest, good for you.
We just set him up with a lender the other day.
Make sure you send me the picture of your new car, Ernest. Okay.
So I mean, these are situations where, I mean, this is speculation. I mean, again, asking a question and projecting a question are two totally different things, right? So it's not as if, like, it almost seems like I don't want to give this guy any more attention in these questions.
No, that's fine, because I just had someone else, Ralphie, just says, hey guys, LexisNexis removed the BK, but Experian keeps verifying.
Yeah, because it's, again, I talked about this earlier, but it's how, right? It's effectively each one of those bureaus has a different deviation in their algorithm, right? Mm-hmm. And Experian is very, very difficult, right? So depending on how you're disputing, I don't know how you're disputing, I can't tell you, but I can tell you, even when we dispute, with the way we dispute, it doesn't happen all at once. It's not. It rarely ever is all three bureaus cleaned in the same round. It's normally a deviation. So if you don't get off in the first round, go back in if you know what you're doing. If you have a broader plan and you know how this stuff works and you have a workable process, go back in. Don't be discouraged just because it was verified. Correct. But if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, yeah, you've hit a wall, and that wall is not going to relent. It's not going to come down. Correct. Unless you know what you're doing and how this stuff works. So my suggestion would be to Ralphie is that if you got off Equifax, that's great. As far as getting it off the other two bureaus, though, it's going to be a situation I don't know how you're disputing.
No. He said LexisNexis removed the BK, but Experian keeps verifying.
No, that sounds like that doesn't make any sense.
Correct.
That doesn't. If he's saying they froze the BK or they removed the BK, I'd have to see the whole situation, because that sounds like it doesn't make any sense, because you can't remove it from LexisNexis. There's no way to dispute LexisNexis. Correct. There's not a dispute option for LexisNexis. So, I mean, there's an understanding here, and this is what I was talking about earlier. There's an understanding here where there's a lot of misinformation that's getting thrown at people that don't necessarily understand the broader aspects of the situation or how the functionality of these different sites works, or even the purpose of these sites, right?
Well, Ralphie, what type of credit are you trying to get that
No.
you.
Forget about that. Forget about that though. I mean, I don't even want to. I no disrespect to Ralphie. Somebody had to have told him it was removed from LexisNexis.
Yeah.
Because there's no dispute option with LexisNexis. You can't go directly to LexisNexis and dispute something. You know, I mean, sure, you can freeze, you can request the freeze, right? There's a process to request that freeze, but for people that have seen, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter, and it doesn't work anyway. It's irrelevant. So, but you can't go in and dispute accounts that are listed on there. They're public record. They're listed in court dockets.
Correct.
It's a governmental database. It's a direct source for governmental database. It means that all the courts pump it into that system, right? And the actual, whether you went to court for a speeding ticket, you'll find it on there. Whether a landlord took you to court, you'll find it on there. Find all this stuff on there. Now these bureaus siphon out a little bit of information from them, but that's not going to it's like I was explaining earlier. To get it off, it's the same way you get off any other type of account. So unfortunately, I can't really speak to it was removed from LexisNexis unless I have more information.
Okay, he says, Timothy said, the step I'm at now, I'm sending the next round to request verifiable proof, like signed documents by me.
That's another waste of time. We live in a technological era. How many people you know that open up accounts and sign? The only wet inks that you're ever going to have, I mean, you can get an auto loan now without wet inks. The only wet ink that you're going to have ever is going to be a mortgage because they got to record the deed.
Correct.
Right? That's it. When you go, my wife just got a surgery done. She didn't even sign at the hospital. Okay? You don't sign anywhere. So if you're hunting for wet ink, you're wasting your time. You're not going to get it. And plus, it doesn't even apply anyway. It doesn't, you're going to send it, and then I don't even know what step he's talking about, step 4 or whatever. I don't know. It's not our system. I can tell you that much, which is fine. You don't need to use our system.
Correct.
But whatever system you're using, it seems like the steps, if these are the steps you're regurgitating to us, the steps are not the steps that are going to help you get there. And maybe this is why you're so skeptical. Maybe this is why your skepticism is at a 9. Or maybe you just think you know certain things because you put together your own scenario, and as a result, it's left you standing still, unfortunately. So that's not going to help, just for the record. So you're not going to find wet inks. I don't even know the accounts that you're referencing. You're trying to get a wet ink on, but you're going to send it, and it's going to get ignored. So.
Okay, we got Darren Garner. You guys do good work when getting your credit repaired. The smart consumers should have a plan to use their repair credit for personal and business use. You guys are the truth. Darren. Thank you, Darren.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. Darren's a client of ours too.
Yeah. No, we got an email. Oh, and then we have someone who just emailed us right now on Warfare War. He asked, what about child support? I only have had 2 late payments, but been up to date, but they keep making my credit super low. Well, you are in luck, because the previous video that I posted right here, credit repair results, it says child support bankruptcy remove. Those are legit credit repair results. And yes, child support can be removed from all 3 bureaus as well. Anything to say about that, Jay? Oh, do we need to make a podcast in itself for child support?
Maybe we get it a lot, but I mean, yeah, it comes up again. I think the idea where some of the confusion stems from is that I think there's an emotional attachment to some of these accounts, and I think that detaches that emotional attachment, whether it be a BK or something, that naturally makes somebody assume that there's more significance and required to get it off, right?
Correct.
Because they're like, oh, well, you know, I got 4 collections. They're probably so easy to get off. Meanwhile, this guy's been disputing for a year, and they're still on there. It's probably so easy to get those 4 off. But then I got a BK, man, and that BK is so tough. And I'm thinking, dude, you've been working on this for a year. You got 6 accounts, probably all the originals from when you started a year ago. All of them seem like they're tough for you, right?
Correct.
So just step back. Let us figure it out. We'll get it done. We'll get it off. The reality is our process applies equally to a BK and a collection. They get removed the same way. And I think that's difficult for people to understand or to make sense out of, just because of the emotional stigma that comes along with some of these accounts, and just the profound emotional attachment comes along with the experience with that account, right? Like when somebody files BK or their house goes into foreclosure or something, it's demoralizing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think when they see it on there, they're like, "There's no way that can come off," but it can. And I just think rather than going looking at it from just this uber negative and skeptical perspective, I think that it's probably, I mean, I think that's how you should be. I think you should look at things positive regardless. But I mean, looking at it from a more rational, less emotional perspective and just opening up how we explain that it happens, I think can kind of paint a clearer path.
Okay, so Ralphie is back. He said Experian basically stated that the letter LexisNexis provided that it was removed. It wasn't not sufficient proof. The bankruptcy was removed, not meeting FCRA timeframe 30 days from LexisNexis. Experian basically lied that they sent someone to the court to pull the BK record. I might hire you guys to help me out, but it's basically off my LexisNexis report.
Okay, first of all, again, Ralph, you put it out there, so I got to respond to all this. So I'm not, no disrespect here. Number one, Equifax has absolutely no way of saying that they had somebody run down to the court.
No, it's Experian. Experian.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It could be TransUnion. It's irrelevant. It's all done through a system called eOscar. Okay, that is the communication between the creditor and the bureaus. If you need to familiarize yourself with it, look up eOscar. It's very clear and it details it. It's a coding system that allows them to respond to disputes, which allows them to do it within that period. If somebody told you that Equifax, they called Equifax, and Equifax told them they had a human being run to the courthouse to verify something, much less that your LexisNexis is clean, not the bureau, but the actual LexisNexis report is clean. Nonsense. That is nonsense, right? That is complete you can't even dispute an account on the LexisNexis site. It's not a possibility, right? And the fact to think that somebody would jump out of their office to address, there's 340 some million people in this country, of which there's probably, I don't know, I'm guessing, I don't think I'm that low, but there's probably 10, 12 million disputes that go on any given day, maybe 20. To think that your one file, they're going to send the National Guard down to walk him down to the Equifax to make sure that it's approved. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous, and they're not going to take these extraordinary measures for anybody, much less a BK. So again, this is the stuff that sounds like maybe it was told to you, because there's no other way. You would never call Equifax. If you called Equifax, you would know that their customer service is either in the Philippines or it's in India.
Correct.
Okay, they don't have customer service that answers the phones in the United States. You know how I know that? Because I've had to call them a million times. And even when you ask for somebody in the United States, which legally they have to do, right? You have to wait for a certain period of time, and they have a small handful of people that answer the phones over there, none of which are runners that go over to the courthouse to go verify Ralphie's public record on there. So I think this I'm glad he brought this question up, because I think it lends to the broader point that I've been making this entire time. It doesn't work like that. There's no way that they could handle that degree of disputes on a daily basis and still be able to get them back. They're human beings running around, right? I think anybody can make sense out of that, right? I mean, not to mention it's documented, and it's not an opinion, it's a fact that they communicate with every creditor through eOscar. Look it up if you're not familiarize yourself with it. That's the coding system that allows them to get back to these disputes in a certain period of time, and allows even these creditors to handle large volumes of these to where they can respond quickly and still get it back within the 30 days. So I'm sorry, Ralphie. I know nobody was running down to the courthouse to verify your stuff. And I don't know the explanation you provided about what Experian said to you. I've probably gotten over the course of the last 10 years and 10,000 clients, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 million result sheets. Probably half of them are from Experian, or a quarter of them, at the very least a third. And I haven't ever seen them write a long delineation letter like that, ever, not once, in regards to a dispute. Every one of them comes back with very clear, and every one of our clients knows this, come back with very clear, responses: verified, deleted, processed, updated. That's it.
Correct.
That's it. So they don't give you these long letters and explain to you that Experian, had a bad day today, and their Wi-Fi went down, and they were stuck in the bathroom, and they couldn't respond in time. That's not real life. And I'm saying this not to ridicule you, but because it sounds like somebody told you this, and this is it's a very good anecdote for the broader point that if somebody told you this, it's unfortunate. If you arrived at this on your own through your own assumptions, maybe, I don't know, then hopefully I clarified it, because it's just that unfortunately there was so much that just was inaccurate there. It was hard to find a point of rational.
I don't know who told Ralphie, but he just finished saying, he just, hold up. Okay, what's up, my people? Okay, so he just finished saying, it was, let me see this right here. It was Experian mixed team, but I'm going to hire you guys. I feel you, John. They are lying. I know they use Oscar. I will hire you guys. Okay, have we spoken to Ralphie by email, Jay?
I have no idea. I don't even know if Ralphie's his real name. So I don't know if we did. Maybe we did. I'm not sure. I'm not positive.
Yeah. So, Timothy, how many rounds does it usually take to remove a bankruptcy? It's a process. Credit repair is a process.
And hold on, let me elaborate on this position. Anybody that tells you an exact time that they can get something off, you run the other direction, right? Yes. And this isn't like we are very clear about the expectations we set. We say based on 10,000 each day. I change it based on the new client that we've helped successfully, but based on our 10,400 and some clients, it typically takes us on average of those total amount of clients 2 to 4 disputes. But whether we get it done sooner, it takes slightly longer. We work until we're done. If somebody comes out and says, "Look, we'll get it off in 30 days," run in the other direction, because it's impossible. Correct. It is impossible to tell somebody with 100% surety walking into a file exactly how long it's going to take. I tell all clients, listen, the first round is normally an opportunity for us to feel out and see what was done before, because very few clients are actually totally honest with the extent of the work that was done to the file before we got there. And as a result of that, we're working around that, and we are able to get a much better idea after getting that first dispute back. But to answer the question, it's a process. And if you're coming in, and already looking for a definitive time frame, it's because you've been misled as far as the fact that there's an actual time frame. But the one good thing that we do is that we have a very large median of people that we've helped, right? 10,400 and some clients, not a small amount of people. So if you have an average based upon that, that's an average that is tried and tested, right? And it's something that you can set an initial expectation on, and it's something that typically bodes very well for clients of ours as far as setting that expectation and then getting close to it as we can, if not exceeding it, and as hard as we can.
Correct. And Ralphie, he says it's the first time speaking to us, so that's great. I mean, you email me right here. I don't know where you're monitoring your credit. We go by Experian or Identity IQ. Even if you have my FICO, just make sure you email us. Make sure you write your name, what you're trying to accomplish with your credit. Let us know what credit monitoring you have and the full login info so that we could review and then give you a quote for the service. But basically, like Timothy, we just keep sending out disputes over and over. We dispute online. We dispute by mail. People are going to get results in email form where it goes into their email and their dispute is done. It's going to say we're able to.
But hold on, let me just elaborate on that for somebody that has that question, because it's a very, like, a lot of his questions he's asking are questions that I get over email, so that from people, so it's good. So we have a broader process. When we say broader process, it's not just sending a 609 letter in every single time and holding our breath, right? Oh. It's not trying to file a fake police report over and over and over again and holding our breath. It's not freezing your left leg and your right arm and standing on your big toe, your right foot long enough where you can hold your breath and then hope that the runner for Equifax doesn't make it to the courthouse to verify your public record. The point I'm trying to make is that it's a broader process, that if this happens, we do that. And if that happens, we do that. And they're all different angles based upon our understanding of how these are attached to the report and how they can come off the report. So, no, we don't just keep sending it over and over again. We dispute, we work until we're done, but it's not the same mundane, redundant thing that we've been done over and over and over again. If it was, what would end up happening is, and probably many of you that are listening have experienced this, you get a letter from the bureaus that say, this is frivolous, we're not going to entertain it anymore. And you can talk to any one of our clients, they don't get those letters. Right? Correct. Because we don't do the same thing over and over again. But if you did, you'll get the letter where it says, these disputes are frivolous, we're not going to entertain them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because you've effectively done the same thing over and over and over again. They're not going to entertain another dispute until you do something, you point something out different from the last 6 times you sent the same letter, right?
Yep. So, yeah, it's been on and on right here with people who who are returning watchers, which many of you eventually are, and you know, usually see a lot of familiar faces who we not only entertain but we educate during the credit repair process. And just off of this, you know, we have warfare war, which he just emailed us. John, you're gonna see his email there. Um, so basically, you know, we'll review the info that's need. We'll send you info that's needed in order to review your file and give you a quote. Every day, people start credit repair with us, but it's an upward battle with the misinformation that is out there with credit. You know, we have a lot of people like yourself who, you know, have been misled, been told information that you believe is true to you, but to us, people who have been doing this for a long time, over 10,400 customers, you know, they're just feeding you something where it's not the truth.
I don't want to interrupt you, but it could also be because they don't know. And how do you tell a client that's relying on you, dude, I don't know the answer? So you just make some shit up, right? Yes. That's what happens. I mean, that's the start of the ridiculousness. They just make some shit up, and the crazy thing is that some of this stuff doesn't sound ridiculous to the person.
Yo, I can't see myself telling somebody, yo, Experian lying. They sent somebody to LexisNexis, to the public record.
It happens. Ralphie experienced it. So, I mean, I'm sure there's crazier stories than that, right? I mean, I'm sure there's crazier stories than that. And this is why, look, I'd love, if I had enough time in the day, which I don't, but if I had enough time in the day, I'd love to just sit and just listen to these stories and then explain back to them what's reality, right? And why it's reality. Just like I did with Ralphie's whole situation, right? Because then at least in his mind, he may not even believe what I'm saying, even though it's 100% fact. At least he can walk it all the way back to the origin of what I'm saying, right? I'm not just lobbing out and saying, listen, Ralphie, that's bullshit, right? Yeah. No, I'm saying it's not because of this and because of this and because of this and because of this. All logical, all able to be verifiable if they did it independently. Everything that I'm saying, and I encourage them, go check out eOscar, go check out Lex, you know what I mean? Like all these different things, so that they could understand where the ridiculousness is. But I guess the bigger problem on why, unfortunately, consumers are susceptible to a lot of this nonsense is because there's just not that underlying education there, right? Correct. There's just not. We're not taught it, and anybody listens to our podcast going back to when we started these knows that it's like something that drives me crazy. Because I think just we learn things in school, every level of school, every leg of school, whether from young all the way up through high school, depending on the level of education you have, and we learn some of the dumbest shit we won't ever use in life, right? And sometimes we waste a lot of time on that, but we don't have one class that touches on credit or debt when every single household in our country, every single day deals in some capacity with credit or debt, right? But we don't have one class. Right, so who are they stuck having to deal with? They're stuck having to rely, in large part, on snake oil salesmen and hucksters, right, to try and get that education, or people who misrepresent themselves on forums like they're experts, when in reality they're no more an expert than the person that they're trying to give educational information to, which is blatantly wrong, right? So it ends up just becoming a vicious cycle, and it sucks. And I constantly, in my mind, try and figure out ways you can get in front of it. You can't, because you won't ever get out in front of YouTube or Facebook, where all these things are just perpetuated. You just won't. You just won't ever be able to. So the question is, at the end of the day, you just try your best to try and help as many people as you can, educate as many people as you can, and maybe they tell people, and then and that understanding starts to reinsert itself from a foundational perspective. Because otherwise, people don't want to hear the truth. People want to hear what they want to hear. You understand what I mean? Yeah. When you tell somebody it's going to take 2 to 4 disputes, like, damn, that's long, man. A guy on Facebook told me it'd take me like a week. Yeah. All right, we'll give him a shot and call me back in a week, right? Give it a shot. Call me back in a month, right? I mean, did he even look at your report when he gave you that quote? Or did he just tell you, you're like everybody else, you can get done in a week, give me $3,000, right? So, I mean, this is what I'm saying. It's infuriating to me, though, because it is one of the biggest things that you deal with is the misinformation, and it's trying to figure out a way to get up front. Part of the reason we started we started doing these podcasts to get more transparency, right? Just to give
Correct.
people another. If the 15,000 videos weren't enough, it just gives them more of a glimpse into who's helping them, right?
Correct.
But at the same time, it's to educate, because there's a lot of people that listen to stuff that aren't our clients and won't ever be our clients, and that's fine. I'm
Correct.
completely comfortable with that. This whole purpose of these podcasts is not to generate new business, although it's to educate and to provide another leg of transparency for people that are considering starting with us or may be interested in starting with us. But if it
Correct.
educates people, that's great.
Correct.
It becomes a dual operative at that point. So I just think that, you know, whoever we can help, hopefully it'll help to like I say every time we do one of these podcasts, if we can help one person, you know how much money that just saves one person. Like we've done the math before, just on auto loans, and you think about mortgages, and if you realign their finances and get them in a sustainable scenario, whether it be with an auto loan, you drop them from 12 to 1, 2, and you get their mortgage at, let's just say, from 5.5 down to 3. And then you get them, you save them, you consolidate their debts in an effort to save them that. I mean, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars
In
over the life
savings.
of
I think that people need to see the scale of savings throughout a life of a loan.
But it only works for people that think outside of tomorrow. You understand what I mean?
Yeah. Well, think at least
if you're somebody
6 to
walking
9
in
months from here, or
what's that?
if you're thinking, 2 to 3 years, even 10 to 15 years from now, especially if you got a mortgage.
But there's people that think macro and there's people that think micro, right? And then there's people that think both, right? But the fact of the matter is, the thing we try to get the clients to think on is take, rather than it being this get rich quick scenario, which is just so perpetuated online, is to just think broadly, because this is your financial footing that you're doing. Do you want to keep going through these credit scenarios? I mean, obviously people have issues that come up, right? They can't control it. Work-related issues, divorce, etc., right? They can't control that. But if you build yourself the right footing, right, and you have your financing at sustainable rates and so on and so forth, those zigs that you experience and zags in life won't hurt as bad, and they'll be more sustainable. And you won't be, because you're not paying so much in interest, you're not going to be living so closely paycheck to paycheck. This is why you got to change the whole mentality. But that's not the mentality that's perpetuated on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, the Instagram, whatever it is. It's not a perspective among that. And look, the crazy thing I heard the other day was that Facebook has 2.8 billion users, right? So that effectively is all the United States. The United States has like 320 million people. China's got 1.3 billion. So that's all the United States, all China.
UK no, Facebook is not in China.
Oh, that's even worse, really?
No, that's communist. They don't allow you to be. They don't have Twitter in China.
Then you got to figure, if you extract China from the situation, there's approximately 8 billion people in the entire world, right? So you extract China at 1.3, that brings you down to 6.7. India encompasses another 1.2 billion. A large majority of our entire society, our entire world is not even developed, right? There's parts of Africa and other parts of like distant countries that aren't even developed, that are being developed. People are trying to help them develop them now. So you got to figure that they have probably a large majority, a much higher percentage, because I didn't even dawn on me, because I'm not on Facebook, that China, that you're right, they are a communist country and they control their stuff, so they definitely don't have it. So the point I'm trying to make, though, is that it's just everywhere. It's infused everywhere, and people don't watch TV anymore because the news is terrible. They'd rather jump on. It's more dramatic on Facebook, right? So I mean, it's a tough hill to get over if you're trying to spread the educational element of it. So we'll try to help the people that we can. I mean, that's all we can do. And if people got questions, in regards, while we're working through files, which a lot of ours do, which brings a tremendous amount of satisfaction, because not only do they get on the other side, but they also get a working knowledge on how to prevent any issues in the future.
Correct. And we have Fat Boy, who's a regular on the podcast. He says, what's your thoughts on some credit repair companies using this $250,000 software to clean your credit report in 60 days? Geez, that's a new one, Jay.
But again, what are my thoughts on it? My thoughts on it are that just on the surface, I don't know anything about it. I haven't ever heard of it. I think it's ridiculous. $250,000. I don't know where to start. I mean, is it the $250,000? Who would tell somebody how much the software is unless you're making it up? Why would you say? Why would you say that? You sound like a fool. Let's say you buy a $250,000 system, and in the first year you can't tie your own shoes. Well, you just out 250 grand. What are they? How are they even getting the 250? Were they taking out a mortgage on it? I mean, I don't even. It sounds insane.
Correct.
It's just in theory, it all sounds insane, right? Like they're just giving out 250 grand anywhere. So what? You got some guy that just retired, right? And he's got 400 grand in his 401k to retire on. He's just going to shell out 250 grand. Oh wait, you're going to go to a hedge fund, and a hedge fund's going to lend you because no banks are going to lend you $250,000. There's no such thing as a credit repair loan. So I mean, where would that money come from? So, I mean, it just from the surface all the way down, and then you have it's all done in 60 days. Why not 30 days? Why not 42 days? Why not 6 days? I mean, I can just go on and on and on and poke holes in it. And it's not me being a skeptic.
Correct.
If somebody does have a system that does it 60 days for $250,000, that would be
crazy.
That would be incredible. But I'm sure it's just another way to sell and convince people that.
Normally, when people pay a lot of money for things, they value it more than if it's a system for $2,000.
I don't even know I don't even know how that makes it seem more legitimate though. Like just put a higher price tag on it. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
Like if you're not like who I can't even write. That's right up there with the runner to the courthouse. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I don't know. I mean, where does that come into play? Like, why would the value of the system that you're using and who did you buy it from?
Correct.
Who's selling a system for 250 grand? There should be an independent site to go see where that is, and then talk to that manufacturer and find out why you couldn't just buy it yourself for $250,000. Right? None of it makes any sense.
This is. I mean, we're getting. I'm thinking we're just gonna talk about one thing, and we're getting like 3 new things that have come up that are like myths. Okay, we got Ralphie that says, "I know, guys, they BS me, but I sent you my email with the official letter from LexisNexis. I included it, IQ, and my FICO info. Let's work together." Okay, so I got another question. Does your package of do-it-yourself give the proper strategies and letters necessary to do it yourself?
We believe it does. I mean,
it's a system. You're buying a system. I don't know about strategies. Like,
yeah, I think this is again another just look. With anything in life, it could be trading stocks, it could be buying real estate, it could be cleaning credit, it could be buying and selling debt, etc. You know, there's a direct path, and then there's the long way, right? We like to go the direct path. It's hard enough to remove these things as it is to get the bureaus to fall in line with what they're supposed to fall in line anyway, because you know how it comes on, we know how it goes on, we know how to take it off. Much less figuring out ways to overanalyze it, over-strategize it. To give you a very brief but direct answer, the system, the credit repair system, the do-it-yourself one that we sell, it's step listed, and it gives significant depth in explaining why things happen the way they happen and exactly how it happens. Okay, it's not vague. It's not just like 4 letters and that's it. It's like 25 pages where it details. Some of them are the stuff that you would be sending out, but the majority of it is explanation on why it's happening. We're not just including it. And by the way, it comes with endless support. I mean, it literally comes with. We have people that bought the system 6 years ago that have parlayed it into businesses, you know, and they use the support still. So I mean, and even individual consumers that had to go back and do stuff later. There's a forum on our site for people that change ideas, results, etc. And plus, we also have the support team that we have set up for people that don't want to post in the forum, and they can ask direct questions. So. I mean, I don't know any other place that does that gives an endless support they offer and all this stuff. So, again, it's just another leg of standing behind things that we do, because I don't know anybody that does that. I mean, I've been looking since 2014. We lost it, and I haven't seen anybody. Maybe I'm missing something, but so hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, we have the $99 do-it-yourself credit repair system. It's sold over 5,000 times. Then we have the professional credit repair system as well. That costs $2,000. So with the $2,000 professional system, you don't get a cloud or you don't get a software. You get to learn how to dispute online with all three bureaus by mail. It comes with the inquiry removal template. And it's something that is like giving you gold, and you go out there and you do what you got to do with it. There's people, Jay, that are like, they're doing very well with our professional credit repair system. I mean, remember there was a guy that we helped out, that we gave him the system, not that he bought the system, and then he even sent us customers, like 50, 60 customers in a month. Remember that? That was some time ago.
Yeah,
But
Jason.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, the system sells, but the professional system, if you ask us, we tell you about it, but it's like not like we promote it and sell it. I do have a video, 2 videos that talk about it. But again, this business is not only a business about making money, because this is not a, I mean, you can make a lot of money in credit repair business, but this business is, you got to be there for people. You got to take a stand for people. You just can't think you're going to get this money, you're going to forget about people. When we say you're going to pay a one-time fee and we commit to the file until everything is removed, we stand by our word and we commit to the file until everything is removed. Now, if you decide at 6 months that you don't want to communicate with us anymore and come back a year later, right? A year later asking, hey, where's my credit at? How's my credit doing? Nah. We're going to have to recharge you, because you can't leave the process. You have to be in the process in order to experience the credit repair results.
It's not only that, but understand something. If you stop updating the report, the problem that you run into is the fact that you're not updating the report. That's like asking a plumber to plumb a house without a wrench. I mean, if you can't see the updated report, you can't see the information you need to include in it. Because as I was saying earlier, in order to do, if a dispute comes back, we do that if that happens, or we do this if that happens, etc. We make adjustments. We make adjustments based on how the report looks post that dispute. So if you stop updating it, you're effectively putting arms behind our back, and it makes it very difficult. And not doing it and just showing up later and being like, is it done yet? Like, dude, you haven't talked to us for 4 months. What do you mean, is it done yet? Correct. I mean, we're submitting anyway because we do that, but it's almost blindly, and it's not as effective unless you update your report, because we need that information each and every month after the dispute's complete. So, yeah, it's definitely. But listen, I think more importantly, what you were saying earlier about, take a stand for people. I think it's more to the effect of that. There just needs to be a.
You there, Jay? You cut off.
I said I think there's a tremendous amount of lack of accountability in this business as a whole. Meaning, and I think we get held to a certain level of accountability, which I'm glad we do. Right? It shows there's a level of trust because they're expecting it to be done in a period of time or whatever. So I'm happy that the accountability gets held here. People should always hold people accountable if they say they're going to do something. And if they can't do it, and obviously you have that conversation as well. But I mean, I just think that there needs to be more accountability. And I think with more accountability, it also gives people peace of mind, because people email us, they know they're going to get a response back. They're not waiting 3 weeks. Most of the people that communicate with us get a response back.
Accountability and setting up expectations, I think, is the best.
Yeah, no. And communication, though. Communication is the greaser of all wheels, man. I mean, being able for them to reach out and communicate with us through email and get a response back.
And by the way, just to let my people here on YouTube and online know, look, this is just social media aspect of doing credit repair with John. John has other institutions that send him business for credit repair. Okay, so let's be good customers and not drive John crazy, because it so happens that only.
But honestly, look, I think that the thing that gets confused is in a lot of cases it's because I'm having to dispel stuff with a lot of time rather than like there's a level of misinformation that exists. That this is why I keep bringing it up. That turns that misinformation, regardless of the amount of communication, exists within certain people, and then you got like you literally have to go through multiple emails, which could have been just fixed if the individual trusts what you're doing, right? And all the other people you help, and all the other things that you've done. There should be a level of trust. Why we always say it beforehand. Just trust the process. Trust the process. If you don't trust the process, don't start with it. Don't. Because it's already hard enough as it is. I tell us everything. This is already hard enough as it is.
Yep.
To get files done and to line people up with the financing and to get people the right deal. Because we do that for clients. I mean, this is not hyperbole. This is what we do. So it's a situation where it's hard enough as it is, rather than to argue and have to dispel a lot of these misnomers in a given day because you're busting your egg trying to get all these things done in the right amount of time. Anyway, so you can position them properly and so on. So it's a very large process, right? And in doing so, we just try to really impress upon people that if you're going to buy in, right? Otherwise, you just become traction. And it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary because we all have the same goal in mind. And that goal is to get you wherever you told us on the original intake call you want to be. And that's not a goal that deviates. We don't just do that for, again, rhetoric. We do that because that's the plan, right? That's when we did it. We do intake calls typically a day or two later after we start a file, sometimes maybe more. We get the list of goals, and then we start working towards them the following day, right? So we're on the same team. There shouldn't be any unnecessary back and forth or confusion, right? Because we're all working towards the same goal. So, I understand it's an emotional process, but yeah, definitely I think buying into the process and properly communicating, I think helps out a lot in alleviating people's frustrations, even when they are frustrated or just when they have questions, right? I think being there to be able to communicate with them immediately, I think there's also a lot of situations where they see something like on Credit Karma. This is another one I do almost on like a weekly basis. Yes. Where people look at their Credit Karma, they promise me they're not going to, and they do, and the day after we submit the dispute, the score drops because that's what happens. We did a whole podcast on this, but Credit Karma's platform, when you submit a dispute, it doesn't know how to book the dispute, so naturally, every time you put the accounts in dispute for TransUnion or Equifax, it drops the score, and it drops it exponential. So it's like clockwork. So people see that and like, oh man, what happened? You don't get somebody, if somebody's score drops 60 points on Credit Karma, which they shouldn't be using it anyway, and you don't have the ability to get right back to them and explain that to them, I mean, they're going to lose their minds, right? Let's say you wait a day or 2 days. They're going to be losing it. They're going to be losing it if you're not there to explain that immediately to them, right? Yes. And this is what I'm talking about. And then when they see it, they're like, oh, that makes sense. Now I get it. Okay. And that's like a quick blurb. And that's what that communication is necessary for. It's a lot of communication, and it's quick communication, but it's absolutely necessary in order to kind of keep the boat steady. You understand what I mean? Correct.
I got Ralphie that asked why online disputes work rather than spending $100 by mail. No, they both work. You're still gonna get aggressive results.
You can do it on the way.
Correct. The only thing is that when you send out disputes by mail, correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, if you start today, let's say it gets put in the mail, right? It gets to the bureaus tomorrow. Right, but then the bureau have to recognize this, and that can take 2 business days to recognize. So your dispute will start today's Monday. Your dispute starts Wednesday for the 30 days. When you dispute online and you start today, you start it ASAP right now. You just started. Your dispute starts immediately once it gets uploaded, and that's how you're able to beat out the mail time that it takes to the bureaus to get for the disputes to get to the bureaus and then come back by mail to you. Which, like I told Timothy in the credit repair results video, we've been disputing online since we started, like 2014. Disputing online with I believe Equifax started first, then TransUnion, then Experian.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when Experian has an upload portal that you can bypass a lot of this stuff with, which is good. But as far as Equifax and TransUnion, if you're going to mail, you got to figure, if you put it in the mail today, you're talking 72 hours for them to get it at their location. Then it gets sorted and it gets uploaded into their system, which is another 2 business days. So you effectively lose about 5 days.
Oh, I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah, it's about 5 days,
Okay,
give or
so you
take,
see, you lose
depending on
5
how,
days.
and then you'll recognize it. But here's the problem: this is the other question I answer 150 times a day. When we upload or mail a dispute, it doesn't show up on Experian.com. It doesn't show up on TransUnion, the dispute portal for TransUnion. It doesn't show up on My Equifax. They only reflect the disputes that were done online. Okay, so when you mail a dispute for Experian, you're not going to see it on Experian.com reflecting there. It just doesn't show. When you upload a dispute, you're not going to see it there. It doesn't show. Same thing for TransUnion. So if you're somebody that's trying to figure out why you're not seeing an open dispute yet, you know you mailed it and you know that they received it, it's because it's not going to reflect on the online portal. It's just not. It's not how it works until it's done. When it's done, then you'll get an email notification that it's done, but it's not going to reflect where it says under dispute, under dispute, under dispute, under dispute. So just be aware of that. It can be really confusing for people. And again, since there's absolutely no roadmap for people to understand it, the only way you can learn is for people to do it.
Correct. Now, I have Timothy who asked, so you would dispute a bankruptcy online? Timothy, yes.
I think this whole thing started with there being results from BKs being removed online. Was that one of the
right
results
now, Jay, I'm gonna zoom in because I'm using Ecamm Live. I could show my screen, and I'm gonna show the Outlook screen, and I'm gonna show Timothy that this dispute right here, these results that you see right here, are from a customer. As you can see right there, it says
there's tons. But we have tons of public.
We have
record
tons of this. This is
from
just on
online.
TransUnion.
It's not just one.
This is boom, dispute TransUnion. All right. Let me see what it says right there. Hey, below Gary BK removed from TransUnion in a few days. Good start from TransUnion. So Gary, right, Jay? Gary BK removed from TransUnion in a few days. I gotta see when he started, but it says that the report was created on 5/12. Okay, 5/12, and
he started beginning of May.
And he started beginning of May.
Yeah, maybe the 9th. I think it was the 9th. So it's probably
so in 3 days.
What's that?
In 3 to 4 days, he got these results.
Yeah, but he also sent the email slow. That's why it was really removed in 2 days, but he didn't send it till a day or two later.
It was removed in 2 days, Timothy.
But again, this is there's thousands of videos online reflecting this stuff. This isn't anything out of the ordinary.
Here?
This isn't.
Let me just show him. Right here. In response to your dispute, this item was deleted from your credit report, U.S. Bankruptcy Court, Northern Alabama. So yeah. But how do you know? But how do you do it? Well, we disputed online. You gotta purchase the professional credit repair system.
This all boils down to just look. I respect trying to figure out a way to not pay for information, but I unfortunately in this case we're not explaining to how we do it. I mean, we sell our system. Our $99 system is $99. I mean, I don't know what you spend in other places, and I'm sorry if you spend money that ended up being bad money for you. But I mean, it details everything in very clear, concise terms there. So, and this isn't, again, if you need to go back and look. Google his videos, Gizzy's videos. There's tons of bankruptcy videos, tons of them, not just one or two. There's tons.
Instagram. If you look up hashtag credit repair results, I mean GizzyCredit. I have over I don't even know how many postings since 2012 that I've been posting.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not even. There's a lot of them. If you're looking for them, you'll find them. Okay, I mean, trust me, they're there. There's not a shortage of them, so it's not like it's that unusual.
Correct. And let me see, right over here, we got credit repair results. See all these credit repair results right here that I still haven't made videos for. These I've made videos for all of these here, but like I said, we give credit repair results all the time. What I'm doing right now is with John, because we were doing podcasts every week. So now we're doing them every other week because John has a family. I have a growing family. So, but every Monday, it's either going to be a podcast, which was this today, and then next week I'll upload a credit repair results video so more people could see, just like the credit repair results videos that you saw. So I'm gonna buy it. I just want to make sure that I will have what I need. Will I? Timothy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Say that again.
He says, I want to.
Is it going to have what he needs? Again, we've sold an overwhelming amount of these, and I'm very grateful for that over the course of time. Correct. We don't get complaints about our credit repair system, especially given the fact that it comes with endless support. And I don't think there's a business in the world that offers endless support. And we do it with this just because of if you follow it, it's very clear. It's very clear and concise and specific. So if you follow it, you'll be fine.
Correct.
I don't know what it's going to look like or what you did to it before with all the questions you've asked and the associated misnomers that come with the questions and the level of questioning you've asked and some of the things you said. But I can tell you, if you're patient with it, it'll work. It might work quick. I'm just saying that if you got to work around stuff, you need to be aware of that, because I don't know exactly what was done to that file beforehand.
I got someone mad at Timothy. S.J. Johnson. She says, Timothy must be young. They sell that information. Why would they tell you? Please stop responding to him. They really do have a lot of result videos. Please do your research. And we just lost John right here. Let's call John again. And we just lost John. You there, Jay?
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but that's what I said like an hour ago. I'm going to stop responding to his questions, man. We covered his stuff.
Yeah, we cover your stuff, Timothy. We really appreciate you. This is a forum, but there's other people who have questions. And, I really appreciate your question. Really appreciate getting into it. And I really appreciate that you went into the other video and I sent the screenshot of what you said to John, and we wanted to make this video. Look, welcome to the world of YouTube and social media. Yeah, everyone is an expert. And this is perfect because you have other people who, had similar ideas that you had, and they're totally wrong. People are asking, we could remove child support. Yes, we can. I mean, everything is a process. This is in no way, shape, or form to, like you say, make you famous. This is not about that. There's more people out there that are thinking the same way that you're thinking. And on top of that, those people may be afraid to comment on a video. So
yeah, for sure.
I want to say thank you.
He's a microcosm of a much larger issue, right?
Correct.
And look, we're constantly looking for stuff to talk about. So
correct.
Meaning like ways that we can educate people further and give them a better understanding. So we appreciate any information and any questions that people have or any ideas regarding the shows. We love talking about stuff that can give people a better glimpse and a better insight into what exactly is real versus ridiculousness. So.
And log on to these YouTube live streams. I mean, John is an expert in finance. We also get into real estate investing. He is an avid real estate investor. People talk about stocks. We have conversations about stocks. So, we've helped out a bunch of people. And again, these podcasts are not really, to be like sell. It's more education.
No, honestly, I typically don't like doing it that way. But the only reason we're even talking about us today is because we had to address the other situation. So if it's too much, please, it's not going to be regular, guys. So I don't like doing it that way where we're talking about the stuff we do for people the whole time. I like to do more educational stuff. But just given the fact that we get a lot of questions relating to things that are just misnomers, we thought it would be a good opportunity this time to talk about it. But it's definitely not something I like talking about what we do the whole, as far as like selling the whole 2 hours. I'm not crazy about that.
No. We're not about that life. With the credit repair results video, that sells itself. People just contact me. Again, every day somebody starts credit repair with us. So we're very fortunate. Carissa Talley says, how much do you charge to remove 5 inquiries for our recent? I don't even know if that's even affecting your credit score, Carissa. I mean, every time we get inquiry removal customers, you only got about 5. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, John, but you're allowed to have, 6, 7 to 8 inquiries per year? I mean, it doesn't really...
6.
It doesn't really like affect your credit score. And this is the thing about that I see sometimes with people and inquiries, Jay. They use their credit cards and they're over 40% credit utilization. They go asking for credit and then they blame the drop in scores on the inquiries that they have, not knowing that. I mean, we've seen files that people have 730 credit score with 20 inquiries, but they have little debt. That their debt to income is really low. So
No, I mean, I think a lot of times the fluctuate. There's a couple of reasons why you have the people concerned about the fluctuations. One, because Credit Karma is such a sensitive factor, and it's probably the most popular credit monitoring service that exists. So it just confuses the mess out of people, right?
okay,
Anything that if your credit utilization ratio, your unsecured credit ratio goes up 15%, the score drops 60 points. So that's not real life. When you add inquiries, it drops it. That's not real life. The reality is when people use a real site, it doesn't even need to be a paid site, by the way. Experian offers a completely free report. When you see scores fluctuate inter-month, if it happens to coincide with an inquiry, it's fine. But in reality, it's normally because your usage goes up on your cards, right? That's your most active scoring component. And if you're somebody that has 3 or 4 cards and the statement dates on those particular cards deviate each day, so let's say one is the 3rd, one's the 5th, one's the 8th, one's the 22nd. On those days, the day after those statement dates is when those balances reported per month. So if the usage goes up, the score's going to drop. If the usage goes down on a different card, it's going to even itself out. So on and so forth throughout the course of the month. And what people try to do is if they run an inquiry, they try to tie it back and say, oh, my score dropped 12 points because I ran an inquiry. No, it just happened to coincide with you raising your credit ratio, 3 points or 10 points, 10%, and it dropped the score 12 points, right? So that's where the confusion exists. But again, it's confusion that it's just there. It's present. You know what I mean? And it would be... It'd be great if there was a way to help assist, because honestly, a lot of these monitoring sites only make it worse, especially Credit Karma. It just makes it worse. And they don't explain that these sites use, like Credit Karma, Identity IQ, that they use Vantage scoring models, right?
correct.
Which nobody uses in regular walks of credit. If you apply for any loan, nobody uses a Vantage scoring. They use FICO models currently at this particular point in time in the history of our country. They may transfer down the line to Vantage stuff, but it's not what they're using now. It's not what they're projected to be using in the future. So you're basically managing your credit score, and you ask yourself, why on Credit Karma or why on Identity IQ does it deviate from when you go to get your house pulled? Well, because you're using the Vantage model, and they put different weight on different factors. And subsequently, that's why you're seeing the scores deviate. And this is the confusion, too. It's just these sites just compound the confusion, That's why the educational portion of this is so paramount. It's just there's none anywhere.
Correct. And on that, Ralphie says, I love how you guys set expectations. That's key.
It's just like I said earlier. It's just as important as the results themselves.
Correct.
Because if you're somebody that does good work and you're promising everybody that you're going to get done in 3 weeks, that person's brain wraps around 3 weeks. They've already bought the car. They're already looking for houses in 3 weeks. Now, if you get it done in 2 months and you tell them 2-3 weeks, you still look like an asshole, right? Because for the additional 6 weeks or 5-6 weeks, they're calling you every 15 minutes because you promised them 3 weeks, right?
Correct.
So I mean, setting the expectation and performing is they run together. You can only set the expectation so closely though in this business. So you try to do your best to set it based on a rational approach, which I feel like we utilize in regards to basing it off of historical performance, right? That's how you would do it in the market. That's how you would do it in any walk of life. You base future performance. You'd at least try and average it based on previous returns. Not guaranteed, but that's how you arrive at it, right? And that's why we always say, whether we get it done sooner, it takes a little longer. We work until we're done.
And on that note, Jay, we're gonna log off. 2 hours.
I gotta get running.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for logging on. Clap hands for John.
I like that. Where's that?
I like that. That's with the Ecamm Live. I got a couple of things. DJ Air. Oh damn! I gotta start using these.
Oh man.
Yeah, party.
That last one,
Party noise. Triangle. I gotta start utilizing these. Bicycle horn.
I mean, the second one sounded like it was from some turntables, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing.
Oh damn!
Yeah, man, you're starting a party.
Every time John drops a knowledge,
There you go. Get real gimmicky.
I'm gonna mess with it, and you know what? We're gonna continue to have fun. I want to say thank you to John again, my people. You wanna email us right down here? That's the info. John, thank you so much. I'll let you know the numbers when we get off.
All right, you got it.
Take care. Okay, mi gente, mira. I like that. You hear? Do you hear me clapping? Bicycle DJ. Oh! I like that. Anyways, mi gente, thank you so much. Listen, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Make sure that you hit the notification bell so you see some videos that are gonna come up next. Okay, I'm a small channel. Okay, a lot of you have been watching me for years, but I'm still a small channel compared to other credit repair channels that are like huge. Bring me up there. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. All right, and bendiciones to you. Let me see. Oh, what we got coming up? I got some credit repair results videos coming up next round. Make sure that you hit the notification bell so you don't miss them. Small YouTube channel. If you like what you see here, listen, right over here, cafecito, you know, a little donation for some coffee, okay? And thank you so much for everyone who logs on and stays with us throughout this whole thing. So right now the whole situation is gonna be to hit the Alex sensation. Yeah, are you from around here, Ralphie? Where you from? You from Florida or you from East Coast? Huh? Horn. Right out.
Oh,
all
I
right.
thought I heard GizzyCredit song.
No, I'm not. The GizzyCredit song is coming.
Oh, okay.
All righty.
It's everybody's favorite time of the day.
Everybody say, mi gente, bendiciones to you. Let's go.
GizzyCredit. Anything you want, then you can get it. Don't get scammed, cause then you'll regret it. You no longer gotta look pathetic. Look pathetic. GizzyCredit. Don't get scammed. What you need is just a change of plan.